What's up, guys? This is Ablazeolive, and today I'm going to be doing an arena analysis video, giving my thoughts, my perspective, my ideas, and my constructive criticism to Riot about arena and everything about it. So let's jump right into the action with the TLDR of the video, which is that I like arena. I think it's really fun. I think it was really enjoyable, and I'm very excited for when they bring it back. I'm going to talk about refinement on some of the areas where I feel Riot didn't put a lot of love into because they were focused on making the core gameplay loop fun and enjoyable. But now I feel like it's clear that the gameplay loop is very fun. So now I'm going to talk about some ideas to make some of those underloved areas very fun, as well as I'm going to talk about min-maxing and how to avoid basically a toxic environment in the game. Not necessarily in terms of like toxicity, but trying to avoid people just min-maxing fun out of the game and making it a very unfun experience for everyone. And the main way of doing that is just make everyone very strong. Everyone's strong enough to beat everyone, but not so that it's uninteractable. There's some counterplay to it. You have to play it well, not just win automatically. So let's get into it. Let's start with the probably something that people are very upset about, which is that Riot got rid of it. I actually think Riot getting rid of Arena was a good idea. Now, the reason I think that is just I don't think they should split resources on making these new improvements to this the system of Arena, the various parts of the game that make Arena, in my opinion, need to be improved for the game to be replayable in the long term. So I don't think they should necessarily split the resources between maintaining it and making new stuff. So I like that decision. I'll just get that out of the way. As well as I don't want to talk about balance because balance is sort of relative. Things are strong in comparison to what everything else is. But I have to talk about the plants, the fruits, because it created a really toxic gameplay loop in the early game. Your second summoner spell, Flee, increase your move speed. What you may not have known or not have realized is that it increased your move speed more if you're running away from enemy champions. So the best way to utilize this in the early game was run at a plant that's contested and then be the first one to leave, and then the enemy team is going to follow you because they want to contest the plant you're getting. They don't want you to get it for free. But because you're running first, you're faster. So what ends up happening is you kind of go in a circle, just getting all the plants. And because you're first there, you're always going to be first there because of Flea incentivizing that, as well as just the strength of the plants incentivizing that. Because even if you're taking damage running away, it doesn't even matter because you're getting these plants that are so overpowered. So I feel like that gameplay loop just isn't very fun. Running around, running away, not fighting, getting these plants. It doesn't fill me with joy when I outplay someone by killing a plant that they weren't trying to kill because they don't know that it's strong. You know, that doesn't feel that very good. I would rather that the plants be good, but not that important. And I wouldn't want to reward running away from each other towards the plants. Anyways, it's a little more complicated than that, but I think I just want to address that. There's also some late game problems with plants being really strong and positioning not mattering as much, but it's less important than the early game problems, which is it's trying to get people to run away and not fight each other. Now, the plants exist on the maps, and I think the maps are probably the thing I'm most interested in seeing if Riot makes creative choices with. I feel like there is so much creativity capable within the maps in Arena. I feel like Arena could even go through an overhaul in terms of like what even it is. It could function more so as almost like a mini game thing where you have to do specific things with your champ, or maybe not. I don't know. But my point is that there's so much interesting idea design space there on the maps. The current maps we have are relatively standard. There are some sort of vague pushing you to do like flanking on like the ice map, or like fighting in the center on the Ancestral Woods map. But they're pretty normal. They're pretty safe. There's nothing crazy. There's no like one teammate spawns on the top of the map, the other spawns on the bottom, and you have to like fight in the center, or everyone runs to the center to fight. Or like there's not like a rise ulti on one side of the map that sends you to the left side of the map. So it's kind of like Pac-Man, where when you go off the screen this side, you end up on this way. Like I feel like that stuff could be amazing, but it doesn't exist. It may not exist, but I do think that it would be a huge missed opportunity if they don't do so, because I feel like it could really add to the gameplay experience if you have these maps that have such crazy effects, or even just more like clear benefits to one specific type of team, right? Ancestral Woods benefits melee champs into range champs a lot. Maybe there should be the reverse. Why not? There's one the other way. Maybe have like a camper map that's really bad for campers, or maybe the one that's good for campers. Anything. Just, be creative. Riot's much more creative than me. I'm sure they can find a way to make it fun. Logistically, I don't know how hard it is to make a map, but hopefully it's not that hard, because I think it'd be fun. Now, the maps are kind of augmented themselves by cameos. I actually really like the cameo system. I think that there are a lot of very good cameos, and they have a good understanding of what makes the cameos good with most of the cameos that exist in the game. Some of them aren't particularly fun, but I feel like the good cameos are the ones that transform every game that they play. Like in the 2v2, you're going to play it differently because there's cameos on the map in a way that is important in any sort of meaningful way, but not always so important. Not like it decides every single round that it's in. Not so vague that it's not sure like what is even the benefit of this, but not so clear like, oh, you just know exactly what you're supposed to do to counter this map. And I think illustratively, Gwen and Lux are the opposite sides of the spectrum of maps that I think do it really, or cameos that I think do it really well, and cameos I don't think do it very well. The Lux cameo feels like a mini game. It feels like you just have to watch this line on your screen, and then as soon as it comes near you, you just walk back like for half a second and then walk forward again, and then you dodge the entire ulti. And you just do that every single fight, anytime it comes close to you, and it's always fine. And the worst part is, like, even if you get hit by it, it's not even that bad. It doesn't do that much damage. So, like, even the worst case scenario is, like, not even that bad. It feels very ignorable, and that's why I think it's bad. Whereas the Gwen map, or the Gwen cameo, I feel like it was very fun. I feel like it always changed how I was supposed to play. I think it did a good job of rewarding, or not rewarding, but encouraging comebacks, and not just having a death sentence for whoever is 1v2. I think when you're 2v1, you have an advantage and you should win. But if you don't win, that would be awesome, because then it would be a 1v2, and then the guy who's the 1 is super excited. His teammates really excited because it was a 1v2. I think it would be... I think it's very well done in the Gwen map. And I also feel like it was never clear to me how I was supposed to utilize the Gwen map to its fullest. And I think that level of, not confusingness, but unclear how to like min-max it is really good, because the problem with going in like immediately after the Gwen shield or shroud is if you don't kill them before Gwen comes back up, it's like the worst possible time for Gwen to come in, because they're the lowest, they're the most likely to die soon, and now they're very safe. So I think it was excellent, is the short and simple way of saying it. The Gwen map was great. A lot of the other cameos were good too, but those were just two ones I wanted to mention. Next, I want to talk about the items. I don't have a lot to talk about with the items. I'm not really going to talk about gold or rounds or anything like that. I'm mainly going to talk about, I think that there should be more items. And there should be more of every kind of item. And it may be hard to balance, but that's okay. Because, again, I don't think the game needs to be particularly strictly balanced so that it's actually fair. I think make the game balanced enough that skill, or maybe not necessarily skill, but adaptability in the moment is the thing that's rewarded most, rather than having the best build, having the best strategy or champions, or even necessarily augments, right? Maybe there's an item that allows you to abuse a certain map geometry very well. Anyways, that's basically what I'm trying to say. Is just add more items, make them more fun. I mean, obviously make them more fun, but like make more, okay? And an AP crit one too. Okay, so the big thing with Arena obviously is augments. Now the augment system is really fun. Came from TFT, and I love the augment system. I think it's super fun, but the problem with it in its current state is that so many of the augments just will not be fun in 3 months. And that is the main reason that I'm kind of okay with Riot. Not even okay, I think it's correct that Riot decided to not keep Arena the way that it is. I don't want people to get bored of Arena because these augments are not very particularly inspiring. What do I mean by that? Well, a large part of the augments, a large portion, are simple stat increases. They just give you stats. Some of them give you stats with a condition, and some of those conditions are reasonable, and some of them are not. Meaning some of them change the way you build or do something, and some of them don't. You just still do them and don't think about it again. I think having stat increase augments are actually good. I just think they should be silver, because silver augments aren't particularly impactful anyway most of the time, and I feel that stat increases are good to have, but they shouldn't be anything more than a gold, because you kind of just pick them and then never think about them again. You just sort of have them, and now you're stronger. But I think augment slots effectively should be better suited or better put onto augments that really change the way you have to play, make the game different from the last time you played. If you have 60 more ability haste on some champion, like, yes, that's very nice, but you kind of know how that's going to work, right? It's not that weird. And like in 3 months, it's not going to be that fun to pick the 60 ability haste one. It wasn't fun for me to pick a lot of these static augments by the time this session was over. I was like obsessed with picking all the weird ones that had some crazy restrictions, like Thieves Gloves, or like Back to Basics, or like, you know, these kinds of ones. Now, the other problem augments that I feel exist are the Keystone ones. Now, I'm kind of surprised that I don't like the Keystone ones, to be frank. I think the main problem I have with them is they're not very interesting, to be honest. I think they exist, they function well in regular League, but we've had these Keystones for so long that it feels very old using them. And sometimes they just don't mesh very well. They feel very disjointed in what they're trying to do. The perfect example of this is Fleet and Grasp. Grasp is a tank keystone. It's for tanks or tanky people. Fleet is not for tanks. It's horrible on tanks. You only pick it on like squishy 800 AP mages or 500 AD Jins. Like, those are the champs you pick it on. Why is Grasp in this keystone? You effectively get half a keystone whenever you pick this, because one of the two is always useless. So that's my main problem. They also got rid of just random things, like Grasp doesn't have an HP ratio on this health steal, and Conquer doesn't even heal. I don't know why they did that. The souls also, the dragon souls specifically, sorry, are pretty boring. Like Mountain, Ocean, Infernal. I liked Omni Soul because I got lots of them, but just one soul, it could just be an augment, and maybe just because it's Ocean Soul I don't like it, but I just don't like it because it says soul and I already know what souls do. But it's also just boring. Like, these augments aren't very fun. You get a shield or you get a heal over time. Like, I think there can be more interesting ones. And probably the last one I'm going to touch on is just Summoners. Ignite and Exhaust should not exist. Just create a different augment that fulfills the same goal, and I will be happy. And like, that's actually a lot of the augments. not like a majority of them, but close to it. Like almost half of the augments are pretty just it's just a thing that you get and then you don't think about it anymore. And I just personally think it's not very replayable. I think it would get very old very quickly. I think Riot recognized that, which is why they definitely I mean maybe they didn't, but I think that's part of the reason why Riot chose to get rid of the mode. And I hope that when Arena comes back, we get some banger new augments. I hope a decent number of the augments stay because I think some of them are really fun. These glows, please don't go away. But overall, I think that a lot of the augments need to get sort of shifted around in power. I have a document that I made that goes into a lot more detail about all the changes that I want, or not even necessarily changes, but just things I noticed in Arena. So please take a read if you enjoy it. But that is it for me for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys the next time that I make a video.